Hello everybody, my name is Nate. I'm with the Physio Fix, and today I'm going to talk about eccentric training and some of the toys we have here at our clinic to help train the eccentric part of a movement. So eccentric training is very beneficial and very important because in sports it's all about control, and it's whether you can control your own body, you control someone else, or you control an implement like a stick or a bat or a ball. Another reason why eccentric training is really good too is because we know that after an injury, some people can get muscle growth, and it's kind of like a form of pseudo-hypertrophy where there's more connective tissue within the muscle belly or there's more intramuscular fat. And we have studies that show that certain modalities like eccentric training or blood flow restriction training can reverse some of those pseudo-hypertrophic changes, if that's a word. But anyways, these are some of the tools that we have at our clinic. This is a Kbox4 by Exxentric, and then also over here we have a Kpulley, and I'll kind of talk about how it works. So essentially you have this plate here, and when you pull up on the machine or on this stick, the plate will keep going in the same direction, and it'll keep going in the same direction even as the stick goes down. So if I'm doing like a deadlift or something, or even bicep curls, the plate keeps going and then it goes back down. And then the plate changes directions at the bottom. So we also have a bunch of different sizes of plates. So we got like a super small plate, then we got a regular small plate, and then we got medium and then larges, and we have 3 larges. And the large plates have more mass, and more mass is more inertia. And inertia essentially is how a body at rest wants to stay at rest, or a body in motion wants to stay in motion. So the more inertia, the harder it is to get something to move. And B, if something is moving, it's harder to make it stop. So if I want to train if I want to go for strength, I want to get a bigger plate. I also want to put probably more plates on because that's more mass, and then there's more inertia. And I have an example over here set up so I can show you guys kind of some fun physics if you guys are into that stuff. But this is to demonstrate the law of conservation of angular momentum. So if I sit in this stool and I start spinning, when I put my arms out, I'll slow down, and when I put my arms in, I'll magically speed up. So I'll show you what it looks like. So, and then I slow down. If I pull my arms in, I'll magically speed up, and then I'll slow down, and etc. This stool doesn't spin that well, but it's good enough to demonstrate my point. So with that being said, if I really want to train something very fast, especially with like overhead athletes where they have angular momentum of angular velocity of 5,000 to 10,000 degrees per second within their arms, we want to train that velocity-specific exercise. So what I'll do is I like to use this Kpulley a bunch and put like a bunch of small plates on, or just one small plate, and have them do something really quickly. Or if I'm working with golfers or baseball players, because things like bat speed and club head speed are very important metrics for both those types of athletes, I'll put a smaller plate on, or maybe stack some smaller plates on there, and then do some rotational trunk stuff, just to kind of train that more of that sport specific, but also velocity specific type of activities. So I'll kind of show you guys how this machine works. So we have like certain belt attachments, and we also have a harness, and the harness kind of goes on like a backpack, and then you buckle it. I'll just show you. So the harness goes on like a backpack, then you would buckle it, and then you attach yourself to the Kbox or whatever here. And then a belt, we have this loop here. So we have these 2 loops here. We have a big one and a small one. I prefer to use the big one. And these belts I think it's kind of cool, but you like pull it out to unbuckle. I think it looks pretty neat. So, you know, cool little aesthetic qualities of these machines. And then there's a little loop here. So if you want to avoid any kind of trunk loading, you can use this. And this would be a good way to kind of load up load up someone's legs with someone with athletic low back pain, because we want to maintain lower extremity strength. We want to maintain some eccentric control, and without irritating their back if they are experiencing any low back pain. So those are just some of the attachments. How this thing works is you can take off this little knob here, and you can come closer. So you can take off this knob, and this is how you kind of take on and off plates. I'm probably not going to go change a bunch of plates for the sake of demonstration. And then you just pull it, put it back on, and then make sure it clicks in, and then make sure it doesn't like slide off when you pull, because these plates will move when you get going on this exercise. So it also comes with there's another attachment, and this is just like a straight bar, so you can do like deadlifts. And so what you would do is you want to find your height, and how you do that is you push down on this button here, and it can kind of feed, and you can kind of feed in the rope here, so it shortens. And let's say if I wanted to be here, I'll stop, and then that's the top of the movement. And if I want more rope, I can just pull it up. So I usually have people stand up tall if they're going to do a deadlift, and I'll like say, hey, go a little bit soft, and then that's the top of the movement. That's how I like to do it. I'm not saying it's the right way or the perfect way, but that's just what I do. And then you spin the wheel to start letting it loop a little bit, and then you go to the bottom of the range of motion, and then you pull. Now, the one limitation with some of this inertial-based training, so it's called inertia-based training because it's dependent on the amount of inertia you put into it. But one of the limitations of inertial-based training is that it can either be the hardest exercise in the world, or it can be the easiest exercise in the world, or anything in between. And it's solely up to you on how much effort you want to put into it. As a clinician, I'll tend to provide a little bit more verbal encouragement to my patients. So I'll say push, push, push. I kind of feel like more like a strength coach when I work with patients on these machines, because I want to pull the most out of them. And research shows that when you provide verbal encouragement with a higher frequency, it tends to get the most out of someone. So anyways, that's just how this Kbox works. We also have a Kpulley here, so you can come around, and I'll show you how this thing works. So there's like a little shield here for the plates, so like it doesn't damage the plates. And it's kind of the same thing there. You pull this, whoops. So it kind of helps if there's like less friction on it, so you have to like push into it. Then you can pull it out, and then it pops out, and then same thing. Again, make sure it clicks in, and then it doesn't pull out. And I have an exercise set up here that I like to do for a lot of my ACL patients, but this is more so for if you have a quad tendon issue or a quad tendon graft for an ACL. But I like to have patients lay prone and cuff. Oh wait, I didn't even show. So to feed the rope, you use this little thing here, and you just push up on it, and you can either pull to make this thing shorter, or you can pull here to make it longer. So you can adjust that as needed. So anyways, one of my favorite exercises to do on this with a lot of my ACL patients is to just have them lay prone and then put the cuff around their ankle, and I'll just do it now. And then you'll go here, like so. And I probably need a little bit less rope. Okay. And then you just spin it. And this will bias more of like the rectus femoris, just because the hip is extended as well. And there's also studies that show that when you perform knee extensions with the hip extended, you'll get a lot more neural drive, and we know there are a ton of neuromuscular consequences to any ligament injuries, or any injuries actually. and we also will get more muscle growth with the whole muscle, not just the rectus femoris. But I like to do this, and you just have the patient kick, and then the Kpulley will pull him back, kick, and then it'll pull him back. And make sure you stabilize up here, because the Kpulley will pull you kind of into the rack. So use your upper extremities to kind of stabilize here. And then what you can do, if you're a clinician or a coach, you can just hold their quad down to stabilize their leg as it comes up. So anyways, that's one of my favorite ones to do. And I will show you guys a little bit more. How you move the Kpulley is, and I personally like the Kpulley a little bit more than the Kbox because I think there's a little bit more utility. But the Kbox is great, and I use them both a bunch. In fact, when we first got both of these toys in the clinic, I had pretty much given up on isoinertial lifting, which is just like free weights, and just pretty much strictly did inertial-based training just because it was so much fun and it was new. So that was great for me. Anyways, so how you adjust it is you just pull this pin out, and this I think goes on any rack, and then you just move it up or wherever you want it to be, and I want it to be here, and then just find the gap, and then we're good. So another exercise I like to do on here, again, was with my baseball players and golfers. And I'll get like this little chopping stick here. And then you just, to loop things on, you just pull this pin, and then loop it in, and then pull the pin out, and then bam, then it's good. It's the same kind of thing on the Kbox as well. So I'll have like my baseball players and golfers do this. So right now it's at the end of the range of motion, and I'll say, hey, so just stand till you find the end of the range. All right, so let's say I want it to be there. Then you just spin it, and then you go. And I just love this rotational exercise. And it can be, again, as hard or as easy as you want it to be. But also, keep in mind, with something like this, you can do both, right? There's just, make sure you have a good rationale for it. But you can either do a big plate to really train strength and train force, or you can get a smaller plate to kind of get that more velocity dependent type of contraction that you want. So that's it with the Kpulley. I'll show you guys some exercises on the Kbox. And one of my favorites is to get this belt and then we have our Kbox right next to our stall bars, just because if someone's doing like a Hatfield squat, they have something to hang on to. The Kbox is also very, very light, so we can easily move it. And the heaviest part is just going to be the plates, but we can easily just pick it up and move it. So you can, let's say at some point if we got new equipment, we can move this thing around. It's not that big of a deal. One of the limitations of it being light is that you can kind of tip over on it. So sometimes when I have patients do like a single leg squat, and what I'll do is I'll put a pad here, like a barbell pad, and have them do a split squat, it can kind of tip over, especially where the weight is and if their foot is kind of more in the front. So what you can do is just put your foot on the other side of it here on the opposite corner to stabilize the Kbox, or you put your foot there as they do the thing, obviously, or just cue the athlete to be more centered. That's a little bit easier said than done. So I usually just stabilize and then make sure that they're safe. So safety first, and I just wanted to be up front and let you guys know. I'm just going to demonstrate like a Hatfield squat. So the Hatfield squat's named after a guy named Fred Hatfield. He was one of the first guys, I think, to ever squat over 1,000 pounds. So what you do is you just, I'll spin around. But, so I find the end of my range, so it's about here, and you would grab the stall bars, and the Hatfield squat is just squatting with, while you grab onto something with your extremities. So I would spin the wheel down and then squat it up, just like so. And again, it can be the easiest or the hardest exercise you do. Okay. So that's one that I like to do. Another is a split squat like this. So that's a pretty good range right there. So you can either just spin it yourself and then go. And again, I like to hang on to something because this thing will yank you down. So anytime I have someone do it for the first time, I always say, hey, push slowly so you feel what it feels like. So you feel it pulling you down, and then you can kind of crank it up. Like so. Okay. And then you can just stop it like that. So yeah, those are some of my favorite things to do on the Kbox. And one last thing I want to talk about, the really cool thing with this Kbox, the Kbox4 in particular, is that, well, I've said a billion times today in this video that inertial-based training can either be the easiest exercise you do or the hardest exercise you do. And one way you can kind of track whether or not you're kind of pushing into it or your patient's pushing into it is if you use the Exxentric app. And when you open it up, once you sign in, there's a dashboard that looks just like this. So that's when you sign in. If you hit training, this will pop up. And then if you hit exercises, you can connect to a K meter. So good, it's fully charged. So we're connected. And now it's connected to just this Kbox. It's not, the Kpulley unfortunately doesn't have one. I'm sure people at Exxentric are working on that. So then what you do, sorry I didn't finish showing you, is you hit start and then it'll start showing you how well you're moving. Oh, sweet. We have this slant board here. So this is also one of the attachments that they have here. Exxentric has. So this is like a specific, they have their sweet logo on there. So again, aesthetics for the win. So they have their sweet logo on there. And we can use this, the slant board to kind of bias the quads more. So I'm going to grab this belt here. And then we can just do some squats. And then the K meter will tell you if I'm kind of working hard or if I'm being lazy. But since I'm just making a video, I'm not really working out right now. I'm just going to push softly. But I'll show you guys how this thing works. Okay, so I'm in. Okay, so I'm not locking out, but oh well. So I'm going to squat down, and if you can, as you can see, there's like a graph, like a bar graph here. And if I squat up, it'll pop up a number here. If I squat up faster, it'll pop up a different number, and so on. So again, I can kind of track some progress, or I can kind of track the level of effort that my patient's giving. Now, obviously, we're not going to have them kind of push their limit literally every rep they do, or every set, or every session, but it can kind of give me an idea of maybe, hey, my patient might be a little bit more fatigued. It might be a good time to throw in a deload or a pivot week, or I can just be like, hey, we got to get after, we got to get these velocities up. So yeah, that's in sum what we got for our clinic with the inertial-based training. I hope you guys learned something, and I hope you guys enjoyed watching.